Welcome back to the Profits of IT. I'm Jim Punzenberger, your host, creator of the ManageProspectingSystem.com, and author of $0 Advertising Strategies. If you're an IT provider who wants consistent, predictable leads without spending a dime on ads, that's what Managed Prospecting System delivers. Check out ManageProspectingSystem.com after the show. Today's guest is someone who believes no business is too small for IT to matter. He's the president of Greater Southwestern Group. Thomas, let's start with a quick bio. What is your role with the company?
Thanks, Jim. Thanks for having me. My role is I wear every hat. I am the owner and operator of Greater Southwestern Group. It's just been me since day one, and I've worn every hat from support, marketing, accounting, financing, you name it, it is me. I run the whole show for
Cool.
some days. Wish I didn't, but other days, you know, it's great. But looking forward to the growth and expansion, and handing those hats off. So.
Yes. So what is one achievement that might have even surprised yourself with the business?
Um, You know what? It's funny. One of the things that I look at as an achievement is just being in this long. When I started it back in, I started actually in 2005 as a sole proprietor. Just, I registered the business, just having fun, helping people with computers. And I just slowly evolved it. There's been times where, with economic situations or just, changes in life, getting married and moving and relocating, you'd think I would have, said it, enough is enough and, maybe taken a different route. And I didn't. I've been always trying to find ways to keep it going, keep it growing. And so I just think the longevity is one of the things that I'm proud of as far as it's concerned.
Yeah.
So
I mean, most businesses only last a couple of years. I don't know the exact statistics off the top of my head, but they're not good.
no, and I'll be honest. I mean, some years I'm working 9 to 5, and trying to grow the business 5 to 9. So I mean, it's maybe there's not always a full time situation all these years, but just still at any time I could have just packed it in and called it a day. And I'm like Rocky. I refuse to go down. Right. So
Yes. You got to keep on running.
that's just it. Right. So
So, what would be one industry truth that you always challenge?
one that always gets me. I mean, there's so many, and I mean, but the one that really gets me is IT services are too much. There's so many small businesses, and our focus is small, medium-sized business, and even that really is still far more focused on small business. So you're 0 to 50 users, right, kind of thing. That's where we're at right now. But not to say we can't deal with the medium, but even the small. Sometimes you've got a company that's one person, one, two people, or even a half dozen. And they hem and haw on the fact of, it's too much. I can't. And a lot of times you haven't even had the conversation with them. You just tell them what you do, and all of a sudden, oh, that's too much. I've never thought I haven't even said hi to you, and you're already talking about money. Let's just have a conversation. But I had a customer tell me one time, and he probably said it the best. He goes, every time I turn off my laptop at the end of the day, it's become more valuable to me. He goes, how do you put a price tag on that? And it really is the truth because if there's no proper backups, or even if you had backups, depending on what you are backing up, that laptop or the desktop, you turn on the power button the next morning and you got a blue screen of death and you're not really prepared for it. You start sweating, and it's that cold sweat, that sweat of doom.
Yeah.
It's the sweat that everybody has come across at some way, sometime in their life, and you start to panic because you don't know what to do, and you start either grabbing Google search, or prior to Google's popularity, the yellow pages, and you start wondering who's going to help you. And nowadays, a lot of times companies need that consistency to be able to help you in those situations. So to have somebody before all that happens, it's the proactiveness of it. Everyone talks about insurance for this, insurance for that. Managed services is realistically just insurance for your technology. So
Yeah, that does make sense. So let's shift gears to a fun fact.
sure.
Uh, I heard that wrestling came back into your life.
It has, with
Tell us
during
more
COVID.
about that, please.
Yeah, growing up as a kid, young I was born in 85. So I mean, the late 80s, early 90s, I had family who always watched it. So, you watched it then and it was, a riot for what it was worth. Then there's that couple of years lull. And then the late 90s, early 2000s get back into it. And I'm not sure who was on here who's going to remember the coined phrase Monday Night Wars. You had WWF with Raw,
Mhm.
WCW with Nitro, was on it every night. I record the one, watch the other, that kind of thing. And then, I don't, you get older, you grow up, you move on, and I stopped watching it. But with COVID and all the lockdowns, there wasn't very much on TV, and it was actually one of the only things that was still active with new programming. So got back into it with one promotion, started watching the other one again, and long and behold, here we are. What, 5 years later, and I'm back at it like I'm a kid in 1999 watching Monday Night Raw and WCW Nitro. So
Cool.
it's been interesting. Now it is depressing to see some of the guys I watched back in that time get old and age out, but
Yep.
it is what it is. So
Yeah, like isn't it Hulk Hogan just passed away?
yep, yeah, he did. I watched him a little bit, obviously growing up when I was, under 10, don't really know much of him or even the guys like Macho Man and all that. I see all the highlights and all. I grew up more with your Stone Cold Steve Austins, The Rock. Those are the guys who I watched, during that late 90s, early 2000s with your Monday Night Wars, right? So even, Triple H and all that. And I know he's in the media right now too with having enjoyed some time in Greece and everyone's body shaming him for being 56 years old and not exactly being in his fighting prime. So
Yeah.
it is what it is. I laugh, he was one of my favorite wrestlers. I joked with my wife after pictures. I said, I finally now have him and I have the same body shape after all these years. So,
Yeah. So let's shift gears back to business now.
please, yeah.
What do you say is the biggest misconception about IT services when it comes to small businesses?
I think I always find it's two things. It's the fear of cost and the expectation of what you get. Um, a lot of times people still have the misconception of it's a break fix. And well, I see it two ways. First of all, the cost is always the thing. Before, like we said earlier, right? Before you even have a conversation with somebody, they're already, turning away and starting to run because they're afraid of the price. Um, so there's that one part. The other part is, like I said, a lot of times people aren't seeing that it's the managed side is shifting away from break fix. And then the understanding of you don't really want to see your IT guy. I mean, let's be honest, right? With remote being so easy, the fact is 90% of things can outside of initial onboarding and any hardware refreshes can be done remotely. So if you have an MSP or an ongoing IT presence and they're constantly on site, you have to reconsider if they're actually doing their job or you've hired the right guy because something's seriously wrong there. That's my personal view. Those are the things that I see are hard to sway. People expect you to be on site when it's a cost to them, but it shouldn't be. And I think that the pricing point too, people are running away still because they have that misconception. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars to take care of and get nothing for something and always upcharges, right? So that's their misconception, and it's become kind of a stigma, I feel. So
Yeah. So um, let's chat about a superpower. And I heard that you've got a gift for making, tech gobbledygook understandable. Uh, what tell us more about that superpower and how did
well,
you develop it?
I seem to be a natural talker. I got my wife telling me to shut up most of the time because if she doesn't, I'll never stop. So she's kind of my stopwatch on when conversations have to end. So, but even younger, the talking part was never really it's something I grew into, which I think helped. But after coming out of college and graduating, getting your first jobs, you come across a lot of um, older non-tech users in the workplace, and they call in for a ticket. You go and you just start having the conversation, and you explain to them, you know, how how things work or why this is happening. And I started getting compliments just saying, you're not your typical IT guys. First question I asked, what do you mean? I said, well, first of all, you can talk. You can talk to us like a human. You're not scared to run away after the job's done. And then you can explain stuff to us in a very user friendly and the layman kind of ways, right? That's their terminology for it. And even talking to some potential leads and customers, I've done the same thing. one of the big ones is always explaining internet traffic with the garden hose analogy, right? So, you've got the garden hose and the water flow, and then if you puncture holes and, that whole thing. And somebody actually explained it to them in that sense. And somebody's like, that's the first time I've ever heard internet just explained that way. I understand how the internet works when you get a connection to your house or business. And, thank you for that. I said, well, it's the least I can do, right? So, building that trust, and it's helpful because having that ability to have that conversation, it builds trust because you're not trying to speak over a customer or a lead or prospect or just anybody you meet having a conversation. You're at the same level, right? So I find that to be the case. And the other thing I like is, people sometimes will ask, how you're so comfortable with it. I try to speak to people the same way I would want somebody to speak to me about something I'm unfamiliar with. Because how else are you going to understand it? You start giving me technical jargon for manufacturing process, I'm not going to understand most of it. I might understand some. I've got a couple of engineers in the family, so I've learned a bit, but I'm not going to understand much. But if you break it down into layman terms or analogies that make sense to everyday use, it'll work itself out, right? I'll get an idea on how things work. So
Got it. Well, Thomas, uh, I've heard that you're, currently reviewing your own tech stack right now. I think it's something that every business owner should do. And I think I heard that you generously offered to help um, with businesses to assess their own. Want to expand on
yeah,
that?
absolutely. So yeah, we are. It's something I feel like I probably do it far more frequently than I need to. I think I'm guilty of that. I don't know if it's a compulsion or something. I'm always looking at to see how I can utilize what's already existent with and if I can, for example, I'm a very heavy to Microsoft 365 products. I'm sure most MSPs are, and you want to try and make sure that the customer is getting the most out of their licensing on that part, right? I mean, it's already a significant amount for a license. You want to make sure you utilize as much as you can. So, and if you can add on to that again, because you're not going and overreaching and potential overlap, right? So, I'm always looking to see how I can utilize different existing services more efficiently, reducing overlap. So I'm always doing that there. And as far as the assessments, you're right. It's something we like to offer to everybody. It's a nice way to show we're not scary in any way. We're not the scary IT guy who is gonna,
You're not scary like
so
the Undertaker was
there
in
you go,
wrestling.
right? So nice reference. So no, exactly. That's just it, right? Don't want to be we don't want to come off intimidating. Definitely no obligation assessments. And really, a lot of times it's basically just looking and showing you where you stand on the cloud, right? We can test your emails to see if you have any breaches on the dark web or any kind of overused passwords or anything, or kind of give you an idea on where your 365 stands, right? We can assess that in that sense too. If you're nearby, we can always do a physical assessment. Unfortunately, depending on where you're calling from or reaching out from, we may not be able to do that right away, but we can definitely do the cloud side of things and do some remote assessments pretty frequently and pretty briefly and quickly. And it's definitely something I'd be more than happy to do with anybody who's listening. So, or who
Well,
isn't and just gets passed along. So
yes. So if somebody is interested, what would be a great way to get in touch with you?
you could just email us at info@gswg.ca or sales@gswg.ca, either one. You can look for us on LinkedIn, Facebook. You can just look us up at Greater Southwestern Group. If you want more information, it's a little, not by, I'm saying little, but I should probably say immensely out of date, but our YouTube channel is there. I got to really update a lot of that stuff there. But yeah, there's those ways, and Instagram as well. There's always, those are our socials, but email is a great way to reach out to. And you can also visit us online at gswg.ca.
Well, we'll include contact information in the show notes. So check
Appreciate
the
that.
show note. Listeners can check the show notes to get in touch with you.
That's awesome.
Well, Thomas, any final thoughts before we wrap up here?
Um, No, I mean, you know what? Again, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be on. I apologize it took so long. I know, like I said, the emails going to spam. It was I'm glad you didn't give up. Apparently, thankfully, so that was great opportunity for us to meet up today. And no, just I appreciate it again, and I hope it's an opportunity to for some people to know that we're IT MSPs aren't the scary ones. We're actually there to help, and we don't bite.
Sounds great. And thank you for joining me today and sharing. And uh, until next time on the Profits of IT, if you're a small business looking for IT support, be sure to check out uh, Greater Southwestern Group. And if you're an IT business looking to grow, be sure to check out managedprospectingsystem.com. Until next time, stay hydrated and caffeinated.